Yeah, I mean, did you see LCO open up the community content submissions or whatever it was?
Yeah, I think for a couple of upstanding citizens like us, it should be a great opportunity.
Yeah.
I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 10 of the Matchfix. I'm Shock, the overbearing overlord of Oceania, the conduit of creep score, and I'm joined by the lord of luscious locks and ruthless rapper, Amelg.
I'm Amelg.
So week 10 of the LCO was the first round of the playoffs, and I think the first day was perhaps not what people were looking forward to, with Peace and PGG, as well as Direwolves and Order being a quick 3-0. Day 2, on the other hand, was definitely the more anticipated of the two series, with many people saying this was a preview of the finals, and I think after watching it, it most certainly was.
Everfrost is there, the group has ganged up together. This is where Chiefs lost the game last time. Will they win the skirmish this time? Look how low they are. Both Draku is bleeding. Arthur comes out. The shield is there. It's the second life bar. Is it enough mitigation? Can they find a triple kill for BALKHAN?
So to start the series off, it's very different from other series because these are two teams that don't scrim each other. And I think that makes actually such a big difference because normally you've got all these scrim data points on the recent patch. You know, you've seen when they've played, you've seen their pocket picks and all that. But in this series, they don't have that. I think someone joked on Twitter it was their second or third scrim set of the year. Well, that was pretty funny. But I think that makes, especially the first game, more of almost like a scouting sort of thing. You know, you're just kind of trying to feel around in the dark, you know, try and figure out what your opponents want to play. And so they went for some very interesting things in draft. I think the Hecarim, well, first off, Chiefs chose blue, which was sort of interesting because PGG have been heavily prioritizing red side in the previous series. You know, classic team coached by Chippy's red side top last pick, you know, that's the classic. But yeah, so Chiefs chose blue for this Hecarim priority, and kind of as the series evolved, didn't really work out because BALKHAN had this nice Graves to counter it. Another thing is they obviously give over the Ahri, which I think is a very strong pick in the meta. And I guess a last thing that I thought was quite interesting about the draft is on the previous series in PGG versus Peace, Tien was punished for his Jace blind pick by the Malphite. And in this game, Jace was blind picked with the Malphite ban, and I think Winter ended up going Ornn, which I think is decent, but I was expecting maybe something to be a harder counter like Wukong or Aurelia to come through. So it was kind of interesting to see that there are either those holes in the champion pool or they just don't want to play those champs because they're not that strong at the moment. But yeah, I just thought that was kind of interesting that there wasn't a clear, good answer for them on that red side 5 pick.
I'm pretty sure he's played Wukong before, because I think it was a period where he was pretty strong last year. Also, I've seen him play Aurelia as well, so he's definitely not unfamiliar on those champions, but maybe it's just they haven't practiced them enough to show them on stage. I'm not too sure.
I think it could also be that the champs are just considered too weak to even even though they're good counters, to even be worth picking. I'm not totally sure. I feel the red side 5th pick wasn't used the best this game, but it was just an interesting little thing that happened.
Another thing that I think is worth noting is the Veigar 5P for the side of Chiefs for Tele. I feel it was pretty good into PGG's comp. You know, PGG was relatively close range, and obviously Veigar does well into that kind of composition. But that did also give Yuri more space to move around and roam around the map in the early game, as we saw him do quite a few times. In 6 minutes, he ganked bot really early and managed to get Razor's cleanse, which is...
I think he got his flash as well.
Yeah, I mean, having flash cleanse down against Leona Nari is pretty big, and I'm surprised he didn't get punished more for that, honestly.
It seemed a lot of these games, the 280 carries were the main characters and just everyone else was the supporting cast. Yeah. So I think particularly in the early games, having that mid-jungle move and being able to either protect your ADC or to put the enemy ADC behind became a really big thing as the series went on. And so I think PGG definitely had a really strong opening to the series.
They're trying to find some poke with the Jace, with the Zeri, but they're getting whittled down. Call of the Forge Gold knocks them all up. The Drake is there. It's going to be taken. Arthur cannot smite secure it. That's a huge cage onto 4. Now Raze, can he find work? He is the team fight demon. Beautiful dash across the wall to juke out Winter. He's on the opposite side. He needs a team to back him up. Instant cleanse and a flash, and he's got the ultimate. He's got the moves. And he might have just won the game or at least held it.
So that whole game 1 was pretty back and forth, really crazy. I think Pentanet even got 4 drags, but they did end up losing the game. One thing that I kind of wanted to highlight, because it will be something that reoccurs throughout the whole series, is Winter, or maybe PGG as a whole, really don't play their sideways very well. You saw many times that Winter is like down levels, down a huge amount of CS, just because like there's so many waves just like dying to nothing. So I think like throughout the series, that's something that like PGG didn't fix, and it's something they'll definitely have to fix for the next series, because it became like a really big problem for them.
Yeah.
So the game 2 draft started off really similar. I think both teams are the same like first 3 champions, but there were some differences. There was the Twitch, and there was the Gnar and the Tryndamere, so there definitely were some changes. I think the Twitch is probably the thing that surprises people the most. From what I've heard, it actually is a pretty decent matchup into Zeri, because they both have somewhat weak laning phases, and Twitch does really well, like can 1v1 Zeri at pretty much any point in the game. So I think that actually turned out to be a really good pick. I was like pretty surprised, never really seen that before. The Gnar versus Tryndamere thing, I'm not so sure about. I feel like the red side counter pick again should be like very valuable, you know, it should ensure that you have that winning matchup. Instead, we have the Gnar countering Tryndamere. I'm not sure how the matchup's meant to go, but anyway, Gnar picked into Tryndamere and just like getting absolutely destroyed. I'm not sure if that's because he leached and like that's the problem, or he like needs jungle cover or what, but it felt like, you know, the whole game, like Top Boom was just making it so easy for Arthur to come up and dive the Gnar, and it was real sad.
It's a really awkward position to be in, especially when you're opting for red side. The game really sort of started to break open around the 6-minute mark, where Yuri got pushed on mid, and then he walked down bot with BALKHAN, trying to set up a 4-man dive. Kelly TP'd into defend, obviously, and then they were doing some work. PGG had to like start running away. But then, I don't know, it's just the Leona curse, where everyone just starts hitting the Leona, and Leona's fucking broken, so she doesn't die.
Yeah.
And yeah.
That champ literally has like 300 resistances at level 4. It's so insane.
It's so stupid. Kind of reminds me of like old Poppy, where she would get like, I think she still gets this, but like more resistances as she gets low.
Oh,
it feels like that. It's really dumb. Anyway. Yeah, Praetor picks up like 3 kills off the back of that, and like, 3 kills on a Twitch, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And then like straight after this, there was like that fight at the Herald, and Twitch picks up like another 2 kills.
Final damage is there, padding onto 4. Turning around though, and they take out Rogue. This time it's looking good for Chiefs. This time the Shadow Surge is connected onto 1. Can they get the reset? The fear is there. The smite is enough. BALKHAN fighting Life Leech with the Triumph, and they just turn it around.
At this point in the game, like even though Twitch, honestly, he has a pretty hard job this game playing against like the Hecarim Vex Tryndamere. He does have 5 kills, and he manages to just like go crazy. I don't know how many kills he ended the game on, but like 14 or 12 or something. Interestingly, the Gnar, again, same problem as the first game, although kind of because he fell behind, has like no CS at all, did not even have a completed item at 19 minutes. That being said, he did play the team fights quite well, but he just had no money, like straight up. It was like me, really.
Winter's the king, man. He doesn't need anything.
True.
He'll make the magic happen.
So game 2 ends with it tied up 1-1, and finally not a 3-0.
Game 3 is really where things started to heat up. Kind of felt like a whole new best of 3 started, where everyone just slowly started devolving into like apes or something. I don't know. There were some wacky picks in the draft, which was cool. Chiefs actually opting for a red side this time. Maybe just wanted to mix it up a bit, you know, get it, some few other colors in the rainbows in there.
Chiefs choosing red side, I really like. I think PGG's shown like a lot of reliance on the top side last pick to kind of make up for, I think, like holes in Winter's champion pool, and also just like top end is really fucking good, right? So you kind of need the top counter. But we did see some things from the Chiefs that I did not like. And I'm getting just like sick of saying it, but Ryze has to go. Like, okay, guys, this is the most perfect game for Ryze. You have a winning mid jungle. You have a mid jungle with gank set up. And you also have 2 pushing side lanes that win their matchups. You've got this Aurelia, and you've also got a Draven. And what does Ryze do? He does fucking nothing. Again. So in this early game, like Arthur is actually just like running around destroying BALKHAN. Like he's actually just ranching him in the jungle. He's like solo killed him like twice. And I think somewhat you can say this is partially due to Ryze. Like Ryze has a huge amount of priority, right, over Akali, but lots of champs get priority over Akali. So it's not exactly Ryze specific. But you can maybe say, you know, it has something to do with it. But in this game, it's just like actually the perfect storm for Ryze to just like get prior and run around the map and just like blow up all 3 lanes. And once again, Ryze ends the early game with 0 KP and I think maybe a couple deaths to his name. So yeah, really not happy about the Ryze pick, that's for sure.
It's definitely been a consistent theme of it just kind of existing and not really doing much.
So it's around about 14 minutes, I think, where the early game is not really looking too good for Chiefs. I think they've got like this full early game team comp and they haven't really like achieved anything with it. They've like thrown any lead that they've built up with it. And Xin Zhao had just died, but then Raze manages to snipe like 1,300 gold off Hecarim with his ult, and that really like propels him back in the game. And again, as we're saying, like the AD carries were the main characters of these games. So like him getting that gold was just like such a game changer.
Yeah, I think like BALKHAN had a shutdown, and then also Raze had like 300 Draven staffs or something, like fucking huge payout. You can really feel the money. That pretty much like kept them in the game from there, right? Because it gave him such a huge gold swing that he got 2 items, I think, before anyone else in the game.
The game was like insanely back and forth, but as we got later in the game, there was a lot of trolling to do with the Nexus.
It was so painful. Like the first time around, PGG are like looking to end. And there's just so many, I mean, I say this, but you can always like look back, right? But there's so many like small things or like optimizations that PGG could have done to end the game there. Like Yuri like goes into the fountain, he misses his Q on Raze or something. And everyone just like not playing the team fight as well as they should be. Maybe they thought the game was won, or maybe they're just running, I can't really tell. But yeah, Nexus lives on like a few autos.
I think it was like literally like 1 auto. It was so low.
Yeah, and then PGG kind of like, yeah, they go ape mode and they try to like bang their head into the Nexus again, and then they get aced again.
Come around, Drake is going to fall on down. In goes the perfect execution, and that's what Yuri wanted before. It might not be the fountain, but the outcome is all the same. We are ripping you apart.
They're losing again.
How are Chiefs doing this?
At the very end of the game, there's like the top inhib is down, but BALKHAN is hitting the bot inhib in the base race.
Yeah.
And I'm like pretty sure they would have ended if he just hit the Nexus there. Yeah. Honestly, what a heartbreak for PGG. To be honest, the fact that PGG managed to keep playing after this is like insanely impressive. Like definitely pretty crazy mental, and Chiefs managed to take this win, but I'm not sure they see it as a win. But
yeah, you know. But at what cost?
Yeah, exactly.
You can really tell in BALKHAN's face cam at the end of the game, he realized that he fucked up.
So coming into the Game 4 draft, PGG picked red side as per usual, and we saw the Chiefs pick their top laner pretty early, which actually allowed PGG to get both top and mid lane counter picks, which I actually think was quite a big deal. They got the Rumble top, and they also got the Zoe 5P, so I thought those were pretty interesting. And also, something I wasn't too hyped on from the Chiefs is we saw that Ezreal come out. I think Ezreal is just doesn't fit their identity as well as the other champs. It's not the same like late game Raze, just like 1v9 the game, like win condition that they can rely on. So I think draft, at least stylistically, went pretty in favor of PGG this game.
Yeah, the Ezreal definitely felt like really stale with the rest of the comp. Like if Ezreal Braum, I think Braum was like an okay pick into like stuff like the Zoe and like Twitch. And we saw it like a few times during the game where like Braum shield negates Zoe shenanigans. So yeah, I don't know. What do you think they could have picked instead of the Ezreal?
I don't know. If Draven can be a scaling champion, anything can be a scaling champion. So maybe the Ezreal is fine. But I do think like a crit ADC, I'm not sure which ones are open, but I'm sure, there's dozens of them. So
yeah, I feel like you'd want like a more aggressive AD because I think Praetor like blind picked Twitch. And surely you can counter that a bit harder, Heading into the game, it started off like a lot slower than the first 3 games. Maybe it's like players playing a lot more cautiously now it's like nearing the end of the series. I think like one of the indicators that we were back into our usual craziness was when Yuri dived mid tower at like 12 minutes or something, which was really, it was quite silly. It was quite a silly play. Yeah, I don't know. How did you feel as a mid laner watching that?
I kind of saw what he was going for because like the tower was pretty low, right? I can kind of understand, but it was just, those plates when there's a lot of people around, it takes forever to die. So I'm picking up what he's putting down, Yeah,
it didn't quite crunch the numbers properly, I guess. Yeah. That's kind of where we got back into our usual game pace of like just back and forth fights, stuff like that. PGG secured the first 3 dragons, and they were just stuck on like that sole point for so long after it took away 2 consecutive dragons. Beating BALKHAN, usually BALKHAN's the guy who wins the smite fights, I feel like, but after really stepping up this time around and slowing the game down for PGG.
The game ended up being, I think, the longest one of the split at like 47 minutes. It did not feel slow at all. And I think like it was pretty much the exact same as last game actually, where the Nexus ends up on like legit like 2 auto attacks or 1 auto attack from death. I thought that was like actually insane that happened like not just once, but twice in a row, you know? So that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it was like the same HP both times.
Yeah.
Well.
After PGG do manage to kind of defend their Nexus, like Twitch is just crazy out of control fed. And I think from that point, the team fights just kind of went their way. Did have a little bit of a difficulty at the end with Rogue failing to stop the Nars base. A little
was
physically
so funny.
painful, but yeah.
And then just like the walk of shame to like...
And the funny thing was then Nar based and managed to kill the Twitch. Like imagine if they hadn't been able to end there. Oh my God. But they did manage to end the game. So it's 2-2 going to game 5.
We are into the 4th hour of gameplay in a best of 5 that has gone to a game 5 here in the LCO upper bracket finals.
So game 5, what we've all been waiting for, definitely saw some funny business occur in the draft. I think picking Victor after seeing Tryndamere, Leona, and Diana is pretty much equivalent to just neutering yourself in real life. I mean, it just like, I don't really know. It just looks like super hard to play. I also think it was like sort of a weird read on how the series is going. I think like, as we've kind of said before, at least from the outsider perspective, it looked like the team that has like control of like the mid jungle in the early game and can at least protect their ADC, but if they can like bring their ADC really into the game, it's kind of been the team that's favored. So I think picking Victor, a champ that is not particularly good at impacting the map. You know, he's got very good 1v1, very good early game in isolation, but not really good at skirmishing, not good at impacting the map. And then on top of that, picking it into champs that I think do very well into Victor. So that was a big question mark for me because I feel like PGG's draft, most games was like pretty good, but this just stuck out as like a really weird pick to me. Maybe they thought that like after the previous game where Chiefs didn't really punish much in the early game, that they would just be able to secure the safe scaling of, you know, Victor and Jinx from Arcane again. So I think like, you know, it could have been that, right? But I still think it was like pretty greedy to go for into those champs.
They are both from Arcane, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
That makes sense.
You made that Victor joke on Twitter, right?
No,
that was a banger. It was like 40k likes.
I mean, rivers are in Arcane as well. And in the words of Heimerdinger from Arcane, I like to call this the river conundrum. And I suffered from this a lot in my games. And it's basically like, you can't like walk up river most of the time. Like it feels really safe, but like what we saw unfold was that Praedyth and Rogue got prior, they moved up in the river, and then they kind of just get squished in there. They get trapped, and then they're forced to go into the dragon pit, and then just disaster ensues. It was really, really bad.
That's for sure.
And it definitely didn't get any better.
I think at around 7 minutes, Praedyth dies for the 3rd time, which is really starting to be like the nail in the coffin, because not only is Jinx just like dying with like full waves in front of her tower, but also Zeri's managing to pick up the kills as well. And I think like there is a point, particularly with scaling champs, there's like a point where sometimes you fall so far behind that you're never going to get the opportunity to scale into the game. And I think that's like Jinx has really reached that point. Like the rest of PGG still has a chance, but Jinx is like pretty much out of this game unless she manages to pick up like some really big shutdown somewhere.
At that point, when bot is finished, like they start focusing on Yuri in mid, and then they shut him down, and then suddenly the game is over because like Chiefs had around like a 9k gold lead at 15 minutes, and then it's really hard to come back from a gold deficit like that.
It was a kind of sad ending to like such a good series, but I guess everyone just hopes that it's going to be, the finals will be like even better than this.
Yeah.
So I think what will be really interesting is to see what kind of adaptations the teams make for the finals. And I think there will actually be quite a few changes, because not only has this gone to a full 5 games, so there's just like so much stuff to look at, but also that's like the first scrim set they've played in a while, right? So they've just learned a bunch about each other. And I also think there was some like really glaring issues for both teams. I think like on the PGG side in particular, like Winterer was like, I guess it's not just his fault, but he was always like really far behind in CS. I even remember, can't remember which game it was. I think it was the Nar versus Aurelia game. So game 3 or 4. I'm lost in the source. But that game he had like 0 deaths, but he was still down like 150 CS or something, which is like sort of crazy, because that means that it's like either he or his team are just like not managing that side wave at all. And so Winter is consistently like really, really far behind in items. And then I think that is not the easiest thing to fix with like just a couple weeks, because like I said, it's like a whole team thing, not just a Winter thing. And then on the Chiefs side of thing, I think Tally kind of like had some champion pool issues. I feel like Veigar, yeah, the rides was a big problem, but I think that PGG have been targeting like a lot of his champs. Like you saw the Veigar and the Zillion getting banned out. In the current meta, Tally doesn't have the biggest effective champion pool. I think a lot of the champs that he's good at are not like currently good in the meta. So I think like finding a way for him to be more impactful is like a pretty big thing, because like he has like carried games a split. And so like it'll be a lot easier for Chiefs as a whole if he can like have a big impact on these games. But what other adaptations do you think they'll kind of make, either team?
Yeah, I think on the PGG side, there were like you said, like a lot of glaring mistakes, particularly with like wave management, like side lanes and stuff. I feel like on definitely like more than one occasion, like around like Baron dances, PGG were just like ignoring mid wave completely. Or like not having a side wave set up properly.
I think one thing that I've like kind of seen a lot is people are very mixed on which team actually looks stronger, even though Chiefs won the series. I've seen a lot of things of people saying like, oh, like from what I can tell, like PGG look like the better team based on kind of the games, you know. And then there's also the same people saying that Chiefs are consistently better. They just had like a kind of bad day. I think it's pretty hard, honestly, to tell which team is actually better, and the easiest way is just look at who actually won. I think that while there is an argument to be made that like I think PGG on average probably played out the game like more consistently and maybe better overall, but on the other hand, if you build such big leads and you can't close out the game, like do you really deserve to win? Like I'm not sure. Regardless of like how the team's skill are right now, like which team actually is the better team, there is going to be so much adaptation that goes in to the finals that it'll almost be two different teams playing. I think it'll actually be so different in my opinion. Like obviously the champions will remain somewhat the same, but I think the priority on them will change quite a lot. And also the players themselves like could change like their play style coming into the game. But I guess overall, I felt like the level of play in the series was like pretty high, like across the board. Even players that I feel like I've criticized a lot either in this series or in the past, like pretty much everyone had their moments over these 5 games. So it was really impressive. And I think definitely one of the all-time greatest Oceanic best of 5s.
It will just depend on who can adapt better at this point, right? Because it's like pretty late. And yeah, they got to figure out the balance between getting lost in the sauce and like not having any sauce. Well, we've broken down the big boy of the week. We'll take a look at the round 1 matches. We saw PGG dismantle Peace in like really not close series at all.
I think Peace got exploited a little bit for some of their weaknesses. I think Tien kind of struggles at blind picking and he got punished pretty hard. You could tell it was definitely Chippy's coaching this team. Like, yeah, the red side last pick top, but also like the game 1 Malphite, the game 3 Poppy. And I think both of those were like really good picks against their drafts. I also think game 2 was actually a lot closer than it looked. I think that was like the closest draft wise and like gameplay wise, but the fights just like consistently were like really close but went PGG's way. So I think PGG overall just quite a bit better, also quite a bit more prepared. Take the series 3-0.
In the lower bracket, we saw Order taking out Direwolves 3-0 in a series that was actually a lot closer than I feel like the scoreline suggested. Direwolves had a pretty, well, like they were definitely like taking the fight to Order in a couple of the games, and it really just feels like they don't know how to close out or like push their leads mid to late game. And we've seen this like during the regular season as well, where they're able to get early advantages against the higher ranked teams, but they're just not able to convert that into a win.
Yeah, it feels like maybe they just like make too many mistakes on the way to winning, just like give those better teams too many opportunities to like take the game back.
Next week, we're going to be seeing the second half of round 2 with Order facing up against Peace. I honestly don't know who's going to win. If I did just ballpark it, I'd probably say like, you know, fuck it, I'll say Order 3-1.
Okay, kind of a bold prediction. I do kind of get where you're coming from, mainly because Peace have just like been falling further and further. So like I'm getting why you're picking it, but I still think like Peace are probably going to win this. Peace have definitely fallen out of the like very upper tier of teams, more into the like middle tier teams. I think it's probably, I'm going to say like 3-2 to Peace. Honestly, I don't know. I don't really know who's going to win, but I still feel like Peace are maybe like a little bit better of a team. The match after that, like PGG versus whoever wins that match, is most likely another 3-0. I actually think it'll be more dominant than previously. Like I think there's an argument to be made that the team that wins this, like out of Order and Peace, is kind of like finding their style and stuff like that. But I think that having been in the upper bracket like PGG are in, or I guess, you know, they basically get to see this match happen, and whichever team, unless a team wins by a landslide, they're probably going to have to reveal like a lot more stuff, right? And I think PGG, they really took advantage of Peace's problems before, and so I think whichever team gets through here, like PGG is going to be able to take advantage of them, and I think it'll just be another Quick 3-0.
Yeah, I'd agree as well. PGG really getting him all the streakers hot. All right, let's get into some LCO moments, shall we?
Yeah, I saw you even managed to slip past the LCO Matchfix content ban and get yourself on the broadcast in day 2.
Side lanes and ML. I swear for the last couple of months, all he has tweeted is that word. Seems that is all he's bringing. Other than, fire on those diss tracks. Hey, Rusty.
They bet only would get.
He was absolutely spitting fire. Milk? Has Milk made playoffs? With all respect to Milk, has he made playoffs?
You're the historian.
Genuine question.
I got a fact check on the spot.
Fellow Kiwi's got my back. I love you, Skimmy.
Let's hear from the players first before we jump on into it.
Don't think it's ego. Skimmy, I don't think we ever painted as ego. I think they just are a little bit lost in the sauce.
Another mind successfully infected with the shock vocab.
That's a more lethal virus than COVID at this point, honestly. God damn. The Chiefs player cams kind of brought some life back into the whole player cam scene. You had that Energizer battery and the camera, what the fuck was that?
Yeah, the whole thing was pretty weird. It was actually kind of funny as well, Raze and Arthur being really tired. I understand Raze, right? Because he plays a lane, but Arthur just plays PvE for 5 games and is tired. I don't really get that, but,
It seems like there might also be a bit of a pent-up tension in the Chiefs' house.
Sexual tension.
Maybe she wouldn't have been minion blocked and champion blocked and just cuck blocked for the entire game.
Cock blocked, man. Holy shit. That's so funny, man. The things you get away with on the LCO broadcast.
That's right, we can get on there, man. Easy.
No, they're never letting me on there. I've burned too many bridges.
All right, rapid fire questions. Last time you didn't think of any, so this time I purposely didn't think of any as well, okay. So I could, match you tit for tat. So I'm gonna try my best to think of them on the spot. All right, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, first up, would you rather live in Australia or New Zealand?
New Zealand, but pretty nuanced answer, okay, guys? So first off, big factor for me is the quality of iced coffee and strawberry milk. So in Australia, they have oak strawberry milk, which I have to say is by far the best strawberry milk I've had in the West. I will quickly clarify that Korea had better strawberry milk, but I'm a bit of a connoisseur, I've been around a bit. So yeah, Australia definitely has strawberry milk going for it. On the other hand, New Zealand, much better iced coffee. Tararua iced coffee does successfully ratio anything Australia has to offer. So that's pretty 50-50, I would say. But then the real nail in the coffin is that Australia's internet is just fucking trash. It's actually it's just so bad. It's pretty much a third world country. So yeah, I much prefer New Zealand overall.
Would you rather permanently be bald or permanently have a beanie on?
Permanently be bald. I swear being bald is actually not that bad. I don't know, people kind of hate on it, but I swear being bald is pretty chad.
You're lost in a desert. There's no water. There's nothing in sight, just sand everywhere. Which champion would you pick to get you out of this situation?
I feel like needs a champion with a lot of mobility. Something that can get me out there sort of quick. What champs can fly, man? Maybe Aurelion Sol. He might not fit in the desert though, right?
Yeah, no, he'd be too big.
Yeah.
How are you going to get on him?
We got to be more down to earth. Do you think Nami counters the desert or desert counters Nami?
No, desert definitely counters Nami.
You reckon? Just because there's way more sand than there is Nami?
Yeah, it's just going to burn to a crisp.
Oh, what about Kai'Sa? Because Kai'Sa was in the cinematic guiding Talia through the desert.
Wait, you watched
or was it
that?
the other way around? Yeah, I watched that.
That was animated, right? So technically you watched
that's
anime.
Not anime. There's a very big difference. It's animated, but not anime. Very big difference. Okay,
Right,
guys?
yeah.
That's what I tell myself anyway.
Better rap song, End It, or OCE?
Ooh, okay. Finally, a hard-hitting question. I think OC is quite a bit better, but they're both masterpieces. I have been in the business for a long time now, and I've been around the block, and I think OC is truly a fine artwork.
Well, now we know Shock likes anime, but that's it for today's episode of the Matchfix.
What did you say? I'll be having a word you after this episode, that's for sure.
Anyway, I'm going to finish off the episode by throwing this minion at the camera.
Are those under there? Oh, swing
We'll
and a
see you
miss.
next time.